I think I realized there was something incredibly wrong with our system during my senior year when I was interning. I was a general manager in food service, and I was also doing social media freelance, and it felt like it wasn't enough. My generation specifically was told, get good grades in high school, go to a good college, land a solid internship, and you'll be set. And I think that's just so far from the truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Joining me this week is Halston Valencia. She's a recent USC grad that went viral for her tweet about Bitcoin. I'm so excited to speak with her. She also works for Adam O'Brien, who's the founder of the Bitcoin Well. Halston, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I was really excited to read your tweet for many reasons. First of all, I really want Gen Z to embrace Bitcoin. I actually taught at USC for 8 semesters, and it just got me so excited to see that a younger generation is really embracing this and wanting to spread the message. So give us a little bit of your backstory. Who are you? Where are you from? And how did you get interested in Bitcoin at USC?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised in Southern California. I went to school, I studied business and then got a master's in digital media and marketing. And I got into Bitcoin because I was studying business economics and I realized I hadn't really learned or taken away what I had hoped going into college. Unfortunately, I feel like the traditional academic educational system, if you will, really overlooked a lot of the corruption that we see in our broken system. And I remember someone recommending Alden's book, Broken Money. And so I read it. And at first, I kind of just read it and I was like, okay, I think there's something. And then I read it for a second time and I was like, okay, that's when it really clicked. I think Alden really helped set the foundation for the rabbit hole that I was about to go through.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people feel that way. She's one of my favorite analysts and thinkers in the space. Can you tell me a little bit about your business education? I mean, what are they teaching at schools these days? Because I thought USC had Nick Bhatia teaching Bitcoin there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not get to take any of his classes. I was at USC for my master's, and so I don't think he taught any graduate programs or any graduate classes, but I did reach out to him on Twitter, so hopefully he responds. But going back to your original question, I think as a business major, reflecting back on what I was taught to meet deadlines. I learned how to network really well. I learned how to build financial models. I learned a little bit about investment banking. I learned about the stock market. I also minored in marketing and finance. So I did take a lot of finance courses, lots of marketing courses. I learned how to advertise products really well. I learned how to see a high return. I learned how to thrive in a startup environment, but I didn't really learn anything about the truth of our financial system. And I think that was my breaking point. That was, it was a gradual journey, but I think I realized there was something incredibly wrong with our system during my senior year when I was interning. I was a general manager in food service, and I was also doing social media freelance. And it felt like it wasn't enough. And I felt like I was just barely keeping up. And it felt like everything around me was just getting more and more expensive. And it's like, what was I doing wrong? You know, I think my generation specifically was told, get good grades in high school, go to a good college, do well in college, land a solid internship, and you'll be set. And I think that's just so far from the truth.
Coin Stories is proudly brought to you by Gemini. Investing in Bitcoin has never been easier with Gemini's Orange Bitcoin credit card. Earn up to 4% back in Bitcoin on everyday purchases like gas, dining, groceries, and more. With no annual fee, no foreign transaction fee, and no exchange fees on your rewards. This summer, also get 10% back in Bitcoin at golf courses. Plus, sign up today and get a $200 Bitcoin bonus when you spend $3,000 in your first 90 days. Apply now at gemini.com/Natalie. Next up, a quick word about my friends at Bitwise. They've been educating investors on Bitcoin for over 7 years, have over 10 billion in clients' assets, and a team of 100 plus. Their weekly newsletter is a must read. It's written by their CIO, Matt Hogan, one of the best minds in the business. I highly recommend it. It's witty, bold, and quick. Takes just 5 minutes to read each week. So head over to bitwiseinvestments.com/CIO memo. And always, of course, carefully consider the extreme risks associated with crypto. Coin Stories is also brought to you by Ledn. Need cash but don't want to sell your Bitcoin? Ledn is the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, issuing over $9 billion in loans since 2018. And they were the first to offer proof of reserves. With Ledn, you get custody loans, no credit checks, no monthly payments, and more. Visit ledn.io/Natalie. Why do you think we're not taught in school about inflation and about how the money supply is eroding the value of our money, and that you have to invest and put your money to work in order to actually preserve the value of what you work so hard for?
Yeah, I think there's just a fundamental misunderstanding of the system that we're in. And I think the few that do understand it just don't see the value in teaching thousands of business kids who might reject those ideas and might not subscribe to that. Because I did have one professor who vaguely, very, very vaguely mentioned Bitcoin one time. And that was the only time. No, like never really said anything much of it, but almost kind of categorized it as like just another cryptocurrency. And I think they refrain from exposing the truth because it's like unraveling like the thread of a bunch of lies. And it's a humbling experience. As a business economics student, it was humbling to realize like everything I had been taught and all the money that I just spent on a very expensive private school, I do feel like it kind of went to waste to a certain extent. And I don't think that I don't think that most people are happy with the way that the traditional academic system teaches about economics and teaches about inflation. And I think if people were to understand like Bitcoin fixes this and this is the truth, I think far fewer people would even be interested in going to college in the first place.
I relate to everything you just said so much, and I know so many people watching and listening do too. So when were you actually first exposed to Bitcoin? Was it that professor? Was it another time? Did you dismiss it at first? And what got you really to turn around and take it seriously and go down the rabbit hole with things like broken money?
Yeah, I think I definitely dismissed it at first. I think the first time I really heard about how Bitcoin fixes the system that we're in was during my senior year, so about 2 years ago when I read Broken Money. And it was actually that professor who like briefly mentioned Bitcoin, mentioned this book, and was like, you guys should read it, but it was kind of like quickly dismissed. Like I almost feel like he had like a fear of like sharing this information.
Wow.
And yeah, I think that was the first time. I think I dismissed Bitcoin at first because, as many people do, I categorized it as crypto. And I was not appealed to the crypto bros. I always thought they were just too much and, wanted to just get rich and drive a Lambo. So I didn't really take it seriously at first because I just thought it was another cryptocurrency. But then reading Lynn Alden's book, I think the way that she sets the foundation, she really walks the reader through the history of money. She starts with the bartering and then gold and then fiat currencies and then now the digital age. And she doesn't just criticize the fundamentally broken system that we're in. She provided clarity. And I think that clarity led me down this whole rabbit hole. And then I, learned about Saifedean and then I found your podcast and then I found Jack Maller's podcast. And it was just an amazing time of just immersing myself into this whole space.
Isn't it crazy when you go down the rabbit hole, you get so excited about something that maybe you should have learned in school, right? Like I never thought I would be so passionate about economics and thinking about, how to make our financial system better and the history of money until I learned about Bitcoin. And now sometimes I wish I could do school all over again just so I could have learned this earlier. Is that how you felt too?
That's exactly how I felt. And you know what? I would love to maybe teach a class one day, a true economics class, and we'll go all the way back. And the class's textbooks would be Lynn Alden's book, and it would be Saifedean's books, and and the big print, and we would focus on those things. I do wish that more students were aware of what's going on and people in general.
Okay, well that's my next question. Are you sort of the odd man out in your class? Were you the only one that was sort of going down the rabbit hole and feeling like Bitcoin might be the solution to the problems? Or do you feel like this is a movement within your generation? Tell me about Gen Z and Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think specifically at USC, I met a lot of people who were interested in blockchain and interested in crypto and DeFi, but not a lot of them mentioned Bitcoin or really talked about Bitcoin. And to me, that was a signal of not fully understanding it, because I think when you understand it, like you said, you become so passionate about it and you just want everyone to know that here's the solution, there's hope. But I think we are seeing a movement. After my tweet went viral the other day, I got so many sweet messages from recent college grads from all over the country who are my age, who are also very interested in Bitcoin and want to see Gen Zers talk more about Bitcoin and talk about why are we struggling so bad. Like, our generation is some of the most educated, but it seems like we're like unsuccessful, if you will. Like we're not able to buy a house. And so, yeah, I think hopefully this movement continues in the right direction. And I'm just looking forward to being a part of that.
Well, it's very clear that you see a distinction between Bitcoin and crypto. When other people, especially within your peer group, sort of ask you about that, how do you explain it? Like, why do you think that Bitcoin is so special? And why do you think that people who are in sort of that DeFi, crypto, Web3 mindset are maybe missing something?
Yeah, I think one, I don't think they've done enough studying on what Bitcoin really is. It's a completely decentralized peer-to-peer network. We don't have a CEO, there's no corporate office, and there's no paid marketing team. I think many crypto currencies, they're just really tech startups that have a token. It's really not that special. They have a marketing team, there's no supply cap. And I think that's what really differentiates Bitcoin from crypto. And I hate it when they're like categorized in the same thing, because it's just not. And I think I think a lot of like crypto bros, if you will, are really thrilled by the arbitrage and the money that you can make off of crypto. And that's just not at all how I see Bitcoin. I don't see it as a means of arbitrage or a means of getting rich. I see it as a moral economic movement.
This episode is brought to you by Casa, the leader in Bitcoin self-custody solutions, helping people like me secure their wealth with simple, powerful multi-key vaults. And now Casa is here to help businesses and even governments do the same. Introducing Casa Business, a secure, easy-to-use 3-key vault designed for small and large businesses with team signing capabilities and a web dashboard. Start your Bitcoin treasury the secure way and protect your assets. Get 10% off your Casa plan at casa.io/Natalie. Up next, Bitkey. Bitkey is a Bitcoin hardware wallet with multi-sig security, inheritance, and a recovery system designed for real life. No complex setup, no seed phrase, just true self-custody without the stress. It was named one of Time's best inventions in 2024. Use code STORIES for 20% off at bitkey.world. Next up, the Bitcoin way. Bitcoin is only freedom money if you control it fully. The Bitcoin way can help you learn the skills to properly secure your Bitcoin in 100% self-custody with zero counterparty risk. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Natalie to speak one-on-one with the best experts. Your security and sovereignty are priceless, so don't gamble with your future and peace of mind. Want to reach millions of Bitcoin users? Speed Wallet makes it easy. Launch your app on Speed's mini app store. Publish your app in hours, no coding needed. You can also accept Bitcoin payments effortlessly with Speed. Ready to grow? Publish on Speed today. Visit Speed.app. How do you think we turn Bitcoin into something that is really for everyone and isn't viewed by people as the crypto bro thing, a speculative, technology that may come and go as a fad?
Yeah, I think we just need to, I guess, specifically for my generation, I think we need to meet them where they're at. And so for, looking forward, I think that would be through short form content specifically. I think we just need better Bitcoin education. I don't think that most people in my generation are looking up Bitcoin podcasts. I know a lot of people in my generation love Joe Rogan. They love Logan Paul. They love all these other notable and prominent podcast figures. But I think we need to be better at meeting them where they're at. And I think that's something that I'm really passionate about and looking forward to doing with Adam.
I love that. So you mentioned Adam, right? The Bitcoin well. There are a lot of efforts to share the message of Bitcoin, to educate. We've got a lot of podcasts out there. So what do you think, where are we going wrong? And I ask this genuinely as someone who's also got the same mission. I want to reach people, but you're right. I mean, I felt like in 2021, when we had that crazy bull run and the money printer was going crazy after the pandemic, there was a lot of attention on Bitcoin. Everyone in the retail world sort of soured on it for a while because of FTX and the price crash. And coming back, it hasn't been the same level of interest across the board when it comes to content and education as I felt like there used to be. But you're right. I mean, people are listening to Joe Rogan, and I don't know if they're just getting distracted by the political debates that are happening, but what do you think will get more people, especially in that core demographic, the mainstream world and Gen Z that needs to learn about Bitcoin, to actually pay attention to the content and start following educators and podcasters and all the people trying to educate out there?
Yeah. I mean, as a marketer, I think it starts with telling a compelling story. And I think people, specifically in my generation, I think if we were to approach them with, hey, this is why you're suffering, and negative real rates are a thing, and we're a victim of that. And I think that we just need to do a better job of explaining the story of money first, and why it seems like we're working harder, but it's like we're running inside of a hamster wheel. And I think people really need to experience the pain of the broken financial system before they can even understand Bitcoin. Because I think that if they don't see a problem, they're not going to understand the solution if they don't think that there's a problem in the first place.
Go completely. Well, sometimes it's crazy to me because we have such amazing books. We have Broken Money. We have the Bitcoin Standard. We have all these podcasts. We have movies. We have God Bless Bitcoin. We have a million people tweeting about it, and there's still such a gap. There's still such a gap, and people, I see it within my peer group too. They hear me talking about Bitcoin. They think it's just my thing that I'm crazy about, but they're not investing, at least not in a significant way where they're thinking about it, paying attention. So you really think it's like that education component, and maybe just throwing it at them as much as possible in all types of different formats and different ways will eventually get people to pay attention?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what Adam and I are trying to achieve. We're trying to see, okay, where is Gen Z at? They're online, they're on TikTok. Unfortunately, there's a lot of noise right now. There's a lot of distractions. And I too was once a victim of the doom scrolling, but I have decided no more. But I think, if that's where they're at, I think that's where we need to meet them. I don't think that, unfortunately, my generation, I think, is one of the generations that we don't really read as much. I personally love reading, but I think a lot of people are distracted by the new Netflix series or whatever show is popular at the time. And so I think that as educators, meeting them at short form content and snippets, starting slow, I think is the key. I think if we just kind of hit them with books and long podcasts, I think it could be a little scary at first if you're not familiar with everything that's going on.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I rarely have time to sit down for like a 3-hour podcast, but if it's a shorter video, maybe I can listen on a drive or during a walk. So I think you're absolutely right. What do you most want to share with people that are watching that might be, they might be familiar with your tweet. They might work in Bitcoin or not. I mean, what do you want the message to be to anyone who's listening to this?
Yeah, I think specifically for my generation, if you're part of Gen Z or you're a millennial and you're out there listening to this, I think I want to say that Bitcoin provides hope. We have grown up in a time of such chaos. I mean, my high school graduation was in 2020, so very chaotic. I didn't even really have one, to be frank. And so much has happened. And I think there's so many doomers out there, but I don't want to be a doomer. There's hope. And I think that Bitcoin provides that hope. My encouragement to you would be to stay curious and learn like your freedom depends on it, because it does. I think that fiat currencies have completely just taken away our purchasing power, and it's just being slashed in half, every generation. And I think that understanding that there is hope, Bitcoin is hope. It's a way to reclaim your time, the thing to give you more time and ability to do what you truly find valuable. For me, I always had hopes of getting married and starting a family one day. And for the longest time in college, I didn't think that would be possible. And I think Bitcoin it's for the girlies, it's for moms, it's for people who have that hope, but, or have that desire but didn't have the hope. And I think that we need to be really using that messaging, because as soon as I realize that there's hope, it's like, oh my gosh, maybe I can buy a house one day. Maybe I can start a family and become a mom one day. And I just want to be an encouragement in that regard. And just encourage you to stay curious, question everything, and keep learning.
Gosh, that is so well said. I love everything you just articulated. Bitcoin is for the girlies. That is so beautifully put. Isn't it wild that when you start learning about money, even what you said earlier about how people don't take the time to read books, like everything becomes short-term thinking, instant gratification. What can you do quickly? Spend the money now because it's going to be worth, less later. It puts everything into perspective. And like you, I was feeling the exact same way. I had lost hope. I was advancing in my career, making more, but never enough to feel like I can eventually settle down, have a family, have the kind of American dream that I wanted. And Bitcoin completely changed that for me. So it's so inspiring that you have embraced this. I wish I was your age. I wish I could switch places with you. But before we wrap up, any thoughts on just the developments on a national level with Bitcoin kind of becoming more entrenched and accepted and legitimized in our system? The Genius Act finally getting signed, things that really relate to sort of the institutionalization and the broader adoption of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think the broader adoption of Bitcoin is always great. And I think, I guess we'll see how the Genius Act plays out. I always love to see more people using Bitcoin. I know people say HODL, but I think, if we truly want to see the world change, I think we do need to see mass Bitcoin adoption. And I don't know if you're familiar with like Isa Santos and everything she's doing in Isla Mujeres and that circular economy. I think seeing more of those circular economies develop is amazing. And I truly look forward to seeing, maybe looking back in 10 years and seeing, how many people and merchants now accept Bitcoin. And, I think it's great. I think Bitcoin adoption is imperative to our future. Working with Adam has really reminded me that Bitcoin is for families. And I think the more we adopt this mindset, we will begin to see more and more people understand the importance of why accepting Bitcoin or why operating on the Lightning Network is so valuable. And I think that right now we're just in the beginning of it all, but I so look forward to seeing where everything goes.
Well, you have a long career ahead of you. I'm so excited to share this with everyone. I think that this interview is going to resonate with a lot of people. I'm really grateful that you shared the time with me. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts?
Thank you, Natalie. I just want to say I love God Bless Bitcoin. That was like one of my favorite films. And I just want to continue to encourage you and everything that you're doing. And huge fan of your husband's work as well. You guys are amazing and such a power couple. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you. It's an honor that you've listened to Coin Stories. I'm so grateful. I've got to put you in touch with Ella Huff if you haven't met her yet, because she's another Gen Z powerhouse. Oh, you have? Okay, good.
Yeah.
You guys are changing the world, and it's amazing to see. And I'm sure your parents are proud. What do they think of Bitcoin?
Yeah, my mom, I'm actually so proud of her. Shout out, Mom, if you're watching. She just watched your film, God Bless Bitcoin, the other day. I encouraged her to do so, and she loved it. She's been doing lots of reading. She definitely sees the corruption. And I think I was raised by my mom. So she's, faced the difficulties of the broken financial system that we're in throughout my whole life. My dad, on the other hand, thinks I'm a little bit crazy. He's not quite there yet, but maybe one day we'll orange pill him. But yeah, I think explaining Bitcoin to my friends and family has been a little bit of a challenge. But one day, with enough education and people staying curious, we'll get there.
Well, as long as they recognize the problem first, that's the
right.
First step. Recognize what's happening, why it's happening, and then sort of you get to them seeing Bitcoin as the solution. But I'm sure you're doing a great job, Halston. Such an honor to meet you.
Thank
I hope
you.
to get to meet you in person. I'm sure you'll be on some stages pretty soon at these conferences, and it's going to be exciting to see what you do in the future. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Natalie. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Coin Stories. Make sure you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss any new episodes. If you can, turn on those notifications and leave us a positive review. They really help the show grow organically with new listeners. We also have a free weekly newsletter. You can sign up at thenewsblock.substack.com. This show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing should constitute as official investment advice, and you should always do your own research. I'm open to feedback and guest suggestions, so please feel free to reach out at info@talkingbitcoin.com. I'll see you next time.